let me live in peace and freedom for both my body and my mind.
Music speaks to everyone in an international language, but the full charm and wit of a country's folk songs don't carry across national boundaries without a little help in translation. Roger Hinchliffe is a native New Englander who helps to overcome this problem, translating Sweden's most popular tunes into English and performing the songs for audiences here in the United States. He has in fact released a recording of some of his favorites called Sweden's Greatest. Monitor contributor Amy Duncan recently spoke with Roger Hinchliffe and his Swedish accompanist, guitarist Claes Dyberg. The singer explained how he got started in his unique musical career.
Yeah, it would seem unusual if you hadn't been through what I had been through. I was in the U.S. Peace Corps for 4 years in Colombia, and I met a Swede there and followed her to Sweden. And this was in 1973. And I've always been a singer, and I started singing with several different Swedish groups in Stockholm. And in the process, I came in contact with a whole number of beautiful Swedish songs, which I started toying with the idea of translating. And after like 8 or 9 years, I had a pile of really beautiful songs in English, which were popular in Swedish, and I felt had a chance in English, which is why I'm doing this now more or less full time.
And you've made an album.
Yeah.
Tell me about the album.
It's called Sweden's Greatest, and we're talking about Sweden's...
greatest what?
Greatest singer-songwriters or popular composers, if you will, troubadours. And it covers the period from about 1760 when a man named Carl Michael Bellman, who is still extremely popular today, he set the standards basically for everyone else to follow up until present time.
Now listen, I'm intrigued by the fact that you are a Bostonian. I mean, you're not Swedish, but you are an expatriate, am I right? You've been living in Sweden for a very long time.
Yeah.
How were you able to master the language to such a degree?
I don't know. Some people get this free. I didn't have to work at it. I just found myself lucky enough to be able to both speak it and read it and understand it very easily. So it was not a matter of struggle for me. It just came to me naturally. And this is fairly common, I think, amongst people in music. They have a good ear for snapping things up and imitating them, and that's the key to really to learning languages. When you get over into translating, the linguistic part of it is only a detail, really. It's the cultural part that's really the important thing. You've got to have one foot very solidly in two different cultures to be able to transform images and ideas and feelings and moods from one culture to another without losing too much.
Right, when you're in Sweden and you're in the company of Swedish people. As a matter of fact, you've brought your wonderful guitarist with you, Claes Dyberg. Would you please pronounce your last name correctly?
Dyberg.
See, I was way off. But anyway, and he's on the album with you, yes?
No, he isn't, unfortunately. Claes and I started working after the album was made.
So now you have to make another album with
We
Claes.
are in the process of doing a new one, yes.
Good. Oh, you are? Yes,
Yeah.
I think I heard something about that. Now,
Yeah, right.
in what way is this going to differ from the one that the Sweden's Greatest?
It will be different composers. It will be, in one major case, it was a man whom I wanted to have on the first album, but who people in Sweden said, you can't translate him. He's too specifically Swedish. He plays with words too much. He can't be done. But I found out that he can be done, so he'll be the central figure. And then there'll be other singer-songwriters of today, more modern ones.
You know, I did hear that it was said that you had taken on an impossible task. Now, that gets really tricky when you're trying to translate plays on words and perhaps double. Okay, now how do you deal with that when you're trying to make a translation and make it accurate, but at the same time get the feeling across?
It depends. If it's an idea or a linguistic play on words that you feel can be translated, then you'll do it. If you feel that the cultural differences are too great that a literal translation would be lost on the other language group, then you've got to find something in, for example, in American English, which might approximate what the Swedish joke is about and try to use that. And I'd say it's about 50-50. In some cases I can translate it. In others I have to find something similar from English
right.
to use.
Well, apparently you've pulled it off, because and it's surprising to me. And by Swedish people have praised your work, so I mean that's really the highest compliment that you can get.
Yeah. I'm really happy about that. A lot of people who translate professionally from English into Swedish, people who work for television or newspapers in England, in Sweden, excuse me, have said that they think these songs have a new life in English, and that really feels great to hear.
Do you think that this music is going to have a broad appeal to Americans?
It's hard to say. It could have. I think the songs are not really that specifically Swedish. When you hear them, they're international. I think they're very universal. The best way to get at audiences here is to stress the Swedish connection, to say that these are songs written in Sweden. So your natural point of interest, your natural point of entry is through the Swedish or the Scandinavian colony here in the States, which is where we're starting. But there's very little specifically in the songs which only Swedish Americans can understand.
Right.
Like the songs we heard today, or we will hear, are much more universal than Scandinavian.
Yes, yes. And you, Claes, as a native, do you think the Americans are going to like the music?
Yes, I think so. As Roger says, some of them are very Swedish, but I think the Americans will take it all.
Well, let's hope so. And I understand that you're going to play something for us today. Now we're going to hear a little live music from Roger Hinchliffe and Claes Dyberg. That's the best way I can pronounce it. They're going to play a little something for us now. And also I wanted to mention that they're going on an American tour. They're going to be doing about 8 cities. They're going as far west as Minneapolis.
Near Gothenburg seacoast, an orchestra plays. A full moon is shining like glass through the haze. They dance cheek to cheek as the accordions begin. Fred Singer and sweet Miss Cecilia Lind. She closes her eyes and his heartbeat she feels. She floats in his arms as they swing on their heels. He leads and she follows, light as the wind. But why are you blushing, Cecilia Lind? Could it be something Fred Singer had said? Your grace and your perfume go straight to my head. Your figure is lovely et très féminine. My God, but you're pretty, Cecilia Lind. Shame on you, Freddie, your old heart's gone wild. Cecilia Lind is still only a child, pure as a flower, unblemished by sin. I'm soon 17, said Cecilia Lind. The band finished playing. Where could they go now? The street where she lived was near his anyhow. They arrived at her gate, and before going in, I want you to kiss me, said Cecilia Lind. And the hours drift away in the stars' magic light. Though Freddie is old, there's a new moon tonight. They say love is blind, you may lose, you may win. Oh, kiss me again, said Cecilia Lind.
Roger Hinchliffe and Claes Dyberg performing the Swedish ballad Cecilia Lind. More of One Norway Street in a moment.